Hey there. Welcome to Kidney Conversations with Remand, a webinar designed by patients for patients, and where we have open, honest discussions about kidney care. It's National Donate Life Month, and in its honor, we're going to hear some incredible stories of selflessness. Four of our special guests today are organ donors, and they each have compelling and unique reasons for making their life-saving choices. I'm Kiku Boyance, Executive Director for Remand, a peer-to-peer mentoring organization that helps encourage people with kidney disease make informed decisions about their kidney health. We're a network of individuals who've experienced chronic kidney illness, dialysis, or kidney transplant. We offer advice and emotional support to motivate and empower those who are on their kidney journey. Visit remand.org to discover more about what we do and the various ways you can support us as we support others on their kidney journey. Oops. Today, we'll hear stories of those who have received a kidney transplant, as well as the stories of the individuals who've given the gift of life. But first, we have some housekeeping. We have some quick things here. We'd like to hear from you. We'd love when people are joining us and ask questions. So please type your questions in the Q&A box below. We also have a short survey after the webinar, and you can complete it anonymously. So it would really help us out. So let's get to it. We have a wonderful group of panelists and special guests today. First, we have Charmaine Griffith, Remand mentor, Cindy Polis, education nurse at Balboa United, Tammy Wright, also a nurse and transplant coordinator at Sharp Healthcare. Our storytellers today are Larry and Tricia, David and Teresa, Daryl and Brian, Mark and Tasha. So folks, I'm going to ask you to turn on your cameras and your microphones.
Hey guys.
Hi,
Hey
everybody.
everyone.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you all so much for being
Ready.
here. All right. So first things first, we're going to go around the room and everybody's going to introduce themselves when they share their stories. But I wanted to kick things off with Tammy. If you would, Tammy, if you could tell a little bit about what you do and then also answer a quick question for me, explain what living kidney donation is all about.
Thanks, Kiku. I have been with Sharp Kidney Transplant for 20 years now. I'm honored to work with living donors who would like to help loved ones, strangers, family, neighbors, whoever they may decide to donate to. And my role is just to make sure that it's safe for the donor to proceed, making sure that their kidney function is adequate. So I go through a whole lot of personal things with people. People will tell you you get the best physical that you've ever had in your life. But we really want to make sure that what we're doing is the right thing. As you can see, we have many people on here who have been donors, and they are tributes to the work that we do ahead of time to make sure that we're not going to do any harm.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Tammy. Thank you so much for being here. So with that, I've got a quick slide that I'd like to share. It's my little true or false slide. And I try to do this every now and again. And perhaps, Tammy, you can help me with this. Is it true or false? Living kidney donors do not get to choose who receives their kidney donation.
Well,
True or false?
Well, it is true. However,
Tammy.
however, however, we do have the donor exchange program. So if someone wanted to donate to a loved one, but they weren't able to due to incompatibility, whether they are not the right blood type or when we mix their blood together, it's not compatible, then we have the donor exchange, which they can also donate, get their loved one transplanted at the same time.
Right, that's very important to note. Thank you so much for sharing that. I meant to talk about the directed donation. So yes, you can also choose who you are going to donate your kidney to, which is called directed donation. So Tammy can tell you more about that in a little bit, but let's move forward here. All right. So I wanted to reach out to Larry here, Larry and Trisha. And Larry, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about your kidney journey and how Trisha ties into that.
Sure. My name is Larry Putt, and this is my wife, Trisha. We live just outside of Colorado Springs, Colorado, out in the country. And my kidney journey began a few years ago. I went to a regular visit with my doctor, and I just started working with her. She ran a blood panel for me and called me a couple days later and said, "Did anybody tell you your kidneys aren't working right?" And I'm like, "No, nobody ever said a word." So that's how it all began for us. I mention us because Trish is as big a partner in this as big a factor as I am, for sure, more so. But what we did was we saw a nephrologist here in Colorado Springs, did all the testing, everything, and the kidney disease progressed pretty aggressively, to where I was a stage 5, and never lost hope, but we had a lot of work to do. So what Trish did, God bless her, was did a lot of research on kidney disease, and we both read a lot about it and found out that one of the things I could do to stave off dialysis was to go on a strict diet, vegan diet, work with a dietitian, do the best I could to whatever I could do physically, work out a lot, stay in shape, go on a diet plan. And fortunately, I found a really good dietitian in Nebraska, and I was working with her on a regular basis. And she really made a huge difference in my life and Trish's as well, because Trish had to cook all the new food that we were going to have, as opposed to what we had before. So when we started discussing what we were going to do, like what's the plan going to be, Trish stepped right up and volunteered to give one of her kidneys up for me, and I'll let her discuss her part of the kidney journey, which was, again, is the biggest part of the journey for me.
Thanks, Larry.
Yeah, so I'm actually the person, that gave the kidney, but here's the crazy thing. So we went to the nephrologist, and this is kind of where you really have to work hard with your nephrologist and really understand what you have that is open to you, right? So when we went to the nephrologist first, they gave us the opportunity to either, one, go on dialysis, or two, wait for a deceased kidney. Like, nobody talked to us about you could be a living donor, right? But they did send us to a hospital, a transplant hospital, to discuss, possibly doing transplants. Well, we didn't know what we were getting into when we got there, other than we hoped it would be better than the 7-year wait possibly for a deceased kidney. And so when we got there and we went through the whole program, Larry was accepted to be a recipient. And at that point, they said, well, you can, what I call it, you could give one to get one, right? So you can donate a kidney, and then Larry could get a kidney, within usually about 12 weeks is kind of the average, right? And so I said, well, I'll give up my kidney. And they're like, oh yeah, it's not, you can't just say that, and then you gotta go through tests. As Tammy knows, you don't just show up and say, here's my kidney, right? So
Right.
as a person that donated, there is a battery of tests you go through, and they make sure that you are going to be fine after you donate a kidney. Nobody wants a kidney donor to, fail after giving up a kidney. So there is a lot of testing. You'll get the best, it's true, you get the best physical of your life. You know everything there is to know about your body, your blood type, everything, which is a little scary, but at the end of the day, you're healthy enough to give a kidney. And so when I went through that process and passing all those tests, that I have to tell you is stressful, passing all the tests. But then once you get there, right, then it's the day that you're going to go have, your kidney taken out. And the thing for me was, I always knew I was going to do it, but that 1 minute before you go under, where you're like, gosh, I'm totally healthy. What am I going to look like when I wake up? How much is this going to hurt? Or how much is my life going to change? Or how much is, what's going to happen to me when I wake up? And you don't want to go back, but you do want to have the answers, and you can't. They can't give you those answers, right? You just have to believe that everything will be fine. So go through the transplant, wake up, and I'm fine, right? And I'm not, for me, I wasn't in a lot of pain. You're uncomfortable, but it's not like I would have thought it would have been. So, I healed up really fine. I don't miss my kidney. I don't even actually think about it anymore. The first week or two, I'm like, huh, is this weird? And then, then it's not. And then you're totally fine. So, as far as the recovery, it was easy. Nothing was hard. I remember thinking when I could walk out my front door, if I could walk 100 yards, then I could walk 200 yards, then I could walk 500 yards. You just got to know there's progression. But within 6 weeks, I'm totally fine. And I'm not a super young person. So, you have to think, well, gosh, if she could do it in 6 weeks, I could. So the process was not, it was stressful because I wanted to be able to give a kidney, but it wasn't hard. And I got to tell you, anybody that donates a kidney that doesn't go to a specific person, like mine went to somebody on the West Coast, like, you think I just helped somebody's life, because I see who helped my husband's life, who helped Larry's life. Somebody donated on the East Coast and Larry got his kidney. And that person I'm eternally grateful for. I don't know who they are,
Right.
but they gave Larry his life, right? They gave us our life back.
Yep.
And I'm happy to say I did that for somebody else, and I hope they're doing fine. You don't know, but I just feel like if Larry's doing this great, the other person's got to be doing just as good.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And what you're talking about is kidney parent exchange, right, Tammy? And Tammy can give us a little bit more insight on that. Back when Charmaine and I were kind of going through our situation, our journey, I hadn't heard of kidney parent exchange. And so I think this is really important. And I think, Larry, we've had a discussion about how, we were surprised not very many people discussed that.
Yep.
Do you know how many people were in that chain, or how many people were a part of that?
Um,
On my part, it was a 4-person exchange. There's
Mhm.
4 different people that were exchanging at the same time.
Wow.
Larry was 1-to-1 because his came from the East Coast, but mine, there was 4 groups of people,
Mhm.
2 receiving, 2 giving, but in different areas. I mean, it is incredible what they can do, and
Right,
how they
right.
can change our lives, and it's just amazing. And I think that's my heartfelt thing, is I want people to know there is hope.
yeah,
You
that
know,
is true.
Yep.
there is hope, even if you don't know somebody that can give one to get one, there are people that will do that for you. It's just having the resources of knowledge of all you guys and what you
Mhm.
guys are doing for everyone, that gives people the hope to say, yeah, I can do this.
Trisha,
Aw,
what was
thank
the
you.
reason that were you a different blood type than Larry?
Actually, okay, so here's the other crazy thing. We matched, right? So we matched, but honestly, for him and I to be down at the same time, there was no way, right? Because
Wow.
as a person that's receiving a kidney, there's like so much you have to know.
Yep.
And I wasn't going to be able to think well enough because I was coming out of anesthesia. So it's like, okay, we'll
So
just,
you did advanced donation.
yes,
And
Mhm.
so that's a really great way for a couple who are wanting to help their loved one, but know that it's not the best decision to do it all at the same time.
Right.
And so you can recover, he can help you, and then
right,
he can recover and you can help him. So that's a
exactly.
perfect example of that.
Yeah,
Other reasons we do it is if they're not compatible blood type wise, or mixing the blood, they're not compatible. Sometimes the recipient's not quite ready for the transplant, but the donor may be in that moment where they feel like, I'm the healthiest and I should donate now. So
right.
they can do family vouchers while they donate ahead of time. So we have lots of options that we can do things so that we can help our loved ones. That's really
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. And the thing was, is that, so I gave up my kidney in August, and then Larry's on a wait list, right, to match. So in the voucher system, when you give one to get one, you have to give one first and then you get one later. But it was my 1 week checkup, Larry already had a match.
Yeah.
So it was awesome.
Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
So many questions. Does anybody have a question for Trisha and Larry? So I actually have a question for Tammy. I'm hoping that you can just explain the kidney paired exchange process. Like I know San Diego has, where you're at, Tammy, has experienced the paired exchange. What's the longest chain that you've been a part of or that you know of? And how common is the kidney paired exchange?
When we first started, they were trying to make them the longest chains possible. And now they're really just trying to do what we can to make the most amount of transplants happen. And so I believe the longest that I've been in was a 21 chain. And my recipient was the last person to get transplanted. So it's really stressful when you've got other people ahead of time, because if as you said, you were in a 4 chain, it goes by the first person. And if that person has a problem and can't donate, then their donor who was attached can't donate, and so on and so forth. So the chain falls apart. And so that's the hard part about the exchange process. But we know that a lot of times we can find sometimes a better match. Sometimes I have had a pair go in where a small little petite lady wanted to donate to her boyfriend, and her boyfriend was 6'4", 250 pounds. So putting that little teeny weeny kidney into him was not going to be a great idea. They were compatible blood type wise, and they were compatible mixing blood, but that kidney wouldn't last him as long because he needs a larger kidney. So we've been doing the exchanges here since 2009. And what it does is it opens it up for all those people that in the past we would say, I'm sorry, you aren't compatible, you can't donate. Larry received a kidney from a living kidney donor when his wife gave a kidney up. So that even as a benefit there to get a kidney from a living kidney donor, they usually last longer, usually have better outcomes. And so we do remote donation. Sometimes we did the first remote donation, I think it was back in 17. I had somebody that wanted to donate to somebody back in Massachusetts, but he had a autistic child and he didn't feel like he could travel to stay there. So he donated here. We sent the kidney on a plane and it got to Massachusetts, and his friend got transplanted. So we have so many things that we can do now to make it a little bit easier and a little bit safer and a little bit more comfortable for everybody. And laparoscopic surgery, that was really a huge game changer for the living donors, to say the least.
Wow. So it's not coming out from back here.
It's coming out from the front.
From the front.
Right.
Yep.
Wow.
I had a question, Tammy, how long does the kidney stay? So, you're talking about transporting across, across the country and all of that. So how long is the kidney good for?
The kidney can go up for 24 hours. Now, we just did
Okay.
one where we got a kidney from Chicago, and it was 7 hours from the time that the kidney was removed to the time it was delivered to our operating room. And then we put it in right away. So that was well within the time period that we needed. We always look for 2 flights. We always have a courier who picks the kidney up. We have a GPS with the kidney. We track that kidney down very safely, if it misses a flight, we're all on the phone saying, what's the next flight it can go on? So we all are coordinated with everybody. When there's a day, I just had my appendix out and everybody thought I was crazy because I came into work on Friday. Well, I came into work because I had an exchange happening on Tuesday. And so I had a son who was donating his kidney for his mother, and that kidney went to somebody in Los Angeles. And the mother was getting a kidney from somebody from Chicago. And so we had 4 transplants happening, 4 donors happening all on one day. And so on those days, you do what you've got to do, because there is 8 people's lives in 4 different operating rooms And it's really important that we all connect together, and we do.
Yeah,
Wow.
so do you have, I'm sorry, I'm just so fascinated by this now. So is there like a, you know, like does it get priority? Like when it has to be shipped, are the airlines like putting the kidney ahead of other, like, how does that all work?
It's cargo.
Oh, it's cargo. Okay, gotcha.
But I've been told they do have a priority if like planes are backed up in the air and they
Okay,
know that there's a kidney on one of those flights, they're going to give them priority.
gotcha.
So
Okay,
whenever there's a big weather thing, so I remember a couple years ago there was a big blizzard. We had to actually change the surgery date for an exchange because we couldn't safely get the kidney to where it was going. So
Oh,
we
wow.
always have to look at weather. So we've got the logistics people look at weather, possibility of planes, not getting out. We do all kinds of logistics ahead of time just to make sure that everything goes smoothly.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for that.
Thank you
Fascinating.
so much. And you mentioned a mother and son, how they were having transplants, or the son was donating to the mother.
For the mother.
Well, we have David and Teresa here opposite. So David's also a Reman mentor, and he's also
Hello.
an amazing videographer that we work together in quite a bit of projects. And so thank you for being here. Please tell us
Thank
your
you.
journey and how Teresa is part of your journey.
Yeah, so this is my mom, Teresa, and I found out I needed a kidney transplant almost about 10 years ago now. I just happened to go into an appointment similar to Larry's story, and they kept me saying your kidneys are failing. They didn't know why, so they hospitalized me for a week trying to figure out why and to see if the kidneys were failing rapidly or if they had more time to think about it and figure out what was going on outside of the hospital. So after some tests in the hospital, they figured out it wasn't an emergency, that it was stable, but it was declining gradually at a pretty slow pace. So I finally figured out a few weeks later that I had a kink in my ureter where urine would reflux into my kidney, which would cause the kidney to drown itself pretty much. And the other kidney they think overworked itself for some reason, and they just couldn't take the load. So I lasted about 7 years until I needed my transplant, and my mom knew right off the bat she wanted to help me. So along the way, she was there ready to give me her kidney whenever I needed it. And so when the time came, she didn't hesitate. And that's my side of the story. So what was your side of the story?
Well, my side of the story, this journey is very difficult because my son was 21 years old. He just married, and we don't have idea this one will happen. So when they give me the what is happening was really a shock, a kind of unbelievable. But the one I know is when I find out about the donor, about this wonderful program, I don't think it twice. I say, no, I can do it. And the staff was wonderful. I am so grateful about have them because they walk me through all this journey with all the tests, with all the knowledge, with the wonderful doctors. They put their knowledge and their time to I understand what is happening and where we are going through. It's not only tell me, is they are care about. I feel they care about me. They care about my son. So that was a big support for me and was very helpful. Sure, I get all the tests. I was worried because I have some health issues. I was worried I don't will be able to do it. I am very lucky. The wife, David's wife, wants to do it because, well, she's so young, and I don't want she's doing that. My husband has some healthy issues, and I don't want he do it. So when I find out I can do it, for me was a happy moment, and I was not even afraid. I was not scared because really they make me feel all this stuff very, very, very comfortable. And I see the knowledge because these people and the care is very good. So I go through this one, and I give it the day of the what is the name?
Transplant.
The transplant. I was a little bit afraid too, also, but only that day, because I feel the same, like, oh, what will happen? I don't will have a kidney. What happen if you need it? But I think so it's a normal reaction of our bodies to
Yeah.
think about, oh, what will happen with us? But when I wake up after the surgery, I feel great. I don't feel, well, the pain from the surgery, but I don't feel like I have not another pain in my kidneys or nothing. I don't feel nothing. I said, really already happened.
Mhm.
So, and after that, I know David was okay, it was fine. And if I have another kidney, I will give it to another person, because it's a great experience to give life. I don't think so. It's not only because you can be a mother and a woman and give life. You can be a man, or any person can give life to another human being.
I love that. Thank you so much, guys. Ugh. Clap for everybody, man. So so kind of going back, Teresa and Trisha, you both said you had, recovering, you were fine, right? So there's a little pain, obviously, after the surgery, but during that, was it about 6 weeks that you had to recover as well, Teresa?
Excuse me?
Was it 6 weeks?
6 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
6.
How did you guys?
Problems. No, I don't have any problems. I don't feel, I told you, I feel very good. I don't even know I have a
Miss
take
Kidney.
away my kidney.
Nice. And
She
same
worried
with you,
more
Trisha?
about she were worried more about David than she did herself.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Mother's love, of
Tammy
course.
was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tammy.
yeah, no, I was actually really good to go before 6 weeks, but the doctors, they don't want you doing a lot before 6 weeks, so they caution you,
Right.
don't lift, don't do this, don't do that. I'm like, oh, come on, I'm fine, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
you actually feel really fine. It's just there's restrictions because they don't want you to, injure yourself.
Right.
I remember 6 weeks to the day. I have horses, so 6 weeks to the day I rode my horses.
Oh my
So-
gosh.
So
Wow.
we don't want you to lift because you can cause a hernia in your incision.
Correct.
And a hernia is an incision, not a thing we want you to do.
Correct.
So even though you feel really good, sometimes the inside's not completely healed, and we need you to completely heal.
Mhm.
So we're not mean people that are just telling you
No.
don't do something.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the surgeon did say, Trish, really, you're gonna get a hernia, and then that's a mess. I'm
If
like,
you get a
okay.
hernia, I'll
You
be
don't want
upset.
that.
Yes,
So me trying to get her to do jumping jacks is a bad thing.
yeah, that wasn't good. No,
No.
Okay, guys, I'm going to switch things up a tiny bit and just do another true or false here. True or false, living kidney donors won't live a healthy life with just one kidney. I think our conversation just now shows that this is false. Living kidney donors can live a healthy, normal life riding horses with one functioning kidney. One kidney can take care of the job that both kidneys do. Right, Tammy? Right, Cindy?
You're right. Else we wouldn't have all these people sitting here telling
I-
you how their experience was.
All right, let's go next to Daryl. Daryl is also a Remen mentor and he is an amazing storyteller. And he's going to share his story and tell us how Brian ties into your story.
I would love to. My kidney, well, let me first a little bit about me. I'm 71 years old. So in my donation, Brian, I received my kidney 3 years ago. So you can't get too old for it. They're going to look at you. If it's something that is possible, they're going to do it. So I'm 70 years old. I'm a dad to 3 kids, married, been married 50 years this year. And I have 8 grandkids, and I love life. I enjoy the outdoors, hunting and fishing, but I have a secret to tell you. I live across the street from Superman. Now, you won't see this Superman like a plane or a bird in the sky. You won't see him bounding buildings with a single leap. He does something far greater. He gave of himself, and he gave to me. My kidneys started going bad probably it's around the 90s when I got my first blood urine test, actually, that showed protein in my urine. And I didn't think much of it. Strong, healthy guy. Life was still good. And I was pretty much in denial with that until I went on a hunting trip in Canada. And during that trip, by the time I got home, my kidney function was a 3. I was very ill. Had a hernia as well that had to be repaired at the same time that they put the catheter in. I ended up on PD dialysis at home. And that was going okay. Had a lot to recover because my kidneys were so low when I went in to PD that it was going to take a while for me to get back. And I was talking with my neighbor who lives across the street, Superman, and I was telling him what was going on in my life. And he looks at me and he says, I got 2 kidneys. I'll give you one. And I said, Brian, wait a minute. I said, that's a big decision. Go home and talk to your family. I wanted to give this young man a way out of this. And so he did. He came back to me a week or so later. And he says, I've talked to the family. It's a go. He says, what do I do? And I wanted him to have another way out of this. So I just gave him a card from Tammy. And I said, well, here's my coordinator. Next thing I know, he comes back to me and he says, hey, I'm a match. Let's do this.
Wow.
There are supermen walking around my city, my state, my country, and they're ready to do those kind of things. Brian's proof of it, of himself he gave. And
Brian.
so let me bring Superman in here.
Yeah, let's hear from Brian. Tell us how all of this went down for you.
Oh man. Well, we've been good friends for over 20 years, neighbors and friends, and he's been my secret mentor. He didn't know it, but he was. And, I started seeing him, health-wise, not looking great, and asked him what's going on, and because he's always been the most fit person I've ever known, and told me he was in kidney failure, and I just was floored by it. And so I asked him what type blood are you? And he's O positive. I'm O positive. So it kind of sparked something in me. And so I just kept bugging him, and he told me, no, I don't want you to do it. I don't want you to do that. And I just kept saying, I want the number. Just give me the number. So I said, well, the least we could do is check it out. And if we're a match, then it's meant to be. And so it ended up being a good thing. And Tammy helped me through the whole thing. And I sure appreciate her and her whole crew. Just everything they did for me was a big deal, and for my friend too. So shout out to all those guys.
Shout out to Tammy again.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. I really appreciate you all being here. Well, you know what? Does anyone have any questions for Daryl or Brian?
I just wanted to ask Brian, like, how he felt like afterwards. Was it, did he have the same or similar experiences as the other 2 donors that shared?
Yeah, I felt great. They fill you with gas. So when I woke up the next day, I looked like I was 300 pounds, and I was all bloated, but I felt great. And the nurse couldn't even believe how much, it sounds funny talking to people about how much I peed, but I peed like a liter in like 4 hours. And I think you went
Wow.
more than that, like crazy amount. And then me and Daryl, the best part about the whole thing was Daryl and I were walking around the 5th floor of Sharp, walking miles a day, just together, side by side. And just,
Oh, I love that.
that was the best thing. That was so much fun.
Yeah, they make you get up right away, right?
Yeah. And then he and I'd just be like, okay, I'm done now. And he's like, no, go like 3 more times. That's funny.
Oh,
Amazing.
wow. So Tammy, why did they fill you up with gas?
Because you have to be able to see what they're doing when we do it laparoscopically. And if we don't do that, then we can't see. So
Gotcha.
they fill you all up and they have more room to be able to visualize everything carefully.
Gotcha. Okay. I have another true or false really quick. I won't share my screen on it. I just living kidney donors, true or false? Living kidney donors have to take anti-rejection meds. True or false, everyone?
Donors.
False. Big false. Living kidney donors do not have to take anti-rejection meds. The only people that need to do that are the transplant recipients. These medicines prevent a person's body from rejecting the organ. And we're going to have a webinar on that a little bit later. Okay, so next up, I've known this gentleman for a few years now. We've worked together on a few things in the past. And I'm just meeting Tasha, for the second day. But I'd love if, Natasha, if you could share your kidney journey and how do you know Mark? How does Mark fit in?
So I lived back in California. So at 26 is when I was diagnosed. From what I remember wanting to go skydiving. For my 26th birthday was my lucky number. So I was just like, hey, let me just go get looked at by a doctor. So went in and my blood pressure was through the roof. Mind you, I was healthiest person ever. So they kept asking, is it normally high, this, that? And I was like, no, like I'm healthy. I don't know what you're talking about. So they had me come in a couple days later, ran some blood tests, and 3 days later, the doctor called and said, hey, your kidneys are failing, which is what was causing the blood pressure to go through the roof. Because I didn't really have any symptoms. And he asked me, like, do you feel this or that? Have you noticed anything? And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, say that one more time. Like, what's failing? So no one in my family I know that had any type of kidney diseases or anything. So then we started going through the family history. They did a biopsy. They put me on a very giant dose of steroids to help stop the damage from occurring, get my blood pressure under control and that stuff. And so they called mine minimal change disease is the only name they could come up with, because they were not sure what had caused the kidneys to fail or be. I was around I think I was around 36% function when they found it. And so the biopsy showed whatever was going on in one kidney was happening in the other. And so they basically made me feel like I was going to die. It was tragic for me because I didn't really know what was going on. They're giving me these meds that now make me want to eat 10 meals a day. For anyone that's been on high doses of steroids, it's the one side effect. That's not fun. So I put on quite a bit of weight very quickly, got all of the side effects from that. And I moved to Texas in 2012 on Mother's Day. I have an older brother out here and moved here to be closer to his family and my niece and nephew, and found a doctor out here. And he was like, you're going to live, like, you're okay. Like, you're not dying right now, let's figure this out. So we got onto some different meds, still stay on steroids for quite a while. Had to change the diet quite a bit. And that was hard. So yeah, it was a long 10 plus years of just trying to manage this function and keep it above 30%. And I was with that doctor now. I was with him for about 9 years. And in 2017 is when he brought up dialysis to me. And so I kind of broke at that point, and I knew nothing about it. I just knew like my body's not doing what I want it to do. And it just is that out of control thing. It's frustrating. So we talked about it, and I was like, I mean, how much longer do I have? Because I don't want to just jump on this for fun, you know? And he's like, well, the minute, you know, he just said, you know, we'll kind of just play it by ear. You know, I was still urinating. I never stopped peeing, thankfully. My fluids weren't restricted or anything like that, but I got a second test under 20% function. And so that's when he brought up, hey, it's time to get you on a list. You need to start thinking about transplant. So then I really fell apart, because then I was like, oh my Lord, I'm going to die. Is just what I thought instantly, like, you know, so started dialysis. And I will say that was probably the worst thing in my whole life. I had a pretty rough go at it, and it lasted 9 months, 8 months. And it was just 4 days a week, 8 hours at a time from my home. But me and my sweet little machine just did not get along. So that was horrific for me. And I'm single, I live alone. So of course, depression, anxiety, all of that stuff came in really heavy. So in the meantime, I was seeing a therapist. That was one of the things with the transplant team, was like, hey, we need the thumbs up from a doctor for you to say, hey, you're mentally strong enough to be able to go through this. So I met her, and I've worked with her 3.5 years, and she just retired last year. And we are great friends now, because she has walked me through a bunch. And so I would say, I'm trying to think, in November, I was part of a women's Bible study. So I think I had 3 or 4 people reach out to me who were matches and just said, you know, I have one more test to go. I'm a perfect match. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's coming. Like, okay, well, then you'd get the phone call. They found something. I can't donate anymore. So I finally just kind of sent a message out of, please don't call me unless you know you're a match, because I can't take the heartbreak. After so many was really, really hard for me, because then it just meant dialysis longer. Again, I was grateful for it. It kept me alive, but I was pretty much at the point of like, if this is what it's going to be like, I'm just going to let go and let my kidneys ride out whatever they have. So I got down to 10%. And that's when I started dialysis, and still peeing, where I met some people who are like, I stopped peeing years ago. And I'm like, well, how does that work? And I mean, I talked to everyone in all of my clinics, which all of my doctors, nurses, dialysis nurses, were pretty incredible. And so I do remember one night my foster sister actually texted me and asked if I knew a Mark Neville, because she had posted something for me on Facebook about needing a kidney, and, you know, just to reach out to her. And she sent it, and like in the midst of things, I was like, Mark Neville. And I was like, well, that's kind of random, you know, kind of in my head. But I was like, yeah, I know him, not really thinking about it. And so in the meantime, I had a couple more people, and they had other health issues that showed up, which thankfully they went through the testing, because then they found issues that they got to deal with and figure out. But yeah, so I was at my last dialysis appointment with my doctor, and Memorial Hermann called me and said, hey, we have your donor. And I said, oh, I know it's so-and-so. And they're like, nope. And I was like, what? I was like, do I know this person? And they're like, yes, you do. I was like, do I get to find out who it is? And they're like, they plan to call you tonight. So just, you know, have your phone on you. And I'm thinking, who on earth is going to call me? And why can't they just tell me? So sure enough, that evening, Mark Neville comes up on my cell phone, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Because I don't think I have talked to Mark in probably 15 years. It's been a minute. So I met his wife back when I was a nanny in California. and the kids went to school with his kids, and his wife, Gail, took me into her mom's play group. And so we kind of bonded over that. And then I babysat on the side for them while doing my nanny job other times. So that is how I know Mark and his wife, Gail.
Wow.
Yeah.
Surprise, right?
Nice surprise.
That's
Mark,
amazing.
share your side of this, Mark.
It's funny. I enjoyed listening to that, Tasha. So I saw that Facebook post. I remember I was in my office and I think I was the executive director at the time, so I was my own boss, so it was okay. I was on Facebook while I was working. And so I saw the post that Tasha needed a living donor. And at that time, I didn't even know that you could donate a kidney when you were alive. I didn't even know that was a thing. But back in 2004, I was lucky enough to be a match for bone marrow. And I donated bone marrow to a baby boy, and that worked out. It was an amazing experience. And I thought that this would probably be similar, that it was like a 1 in 5 million match or something like that. And when I clicked on it, I think that's what it was. I clicked on something, then I got a call from the hospital in Houston, and they said, "Hey, here you're interested in seeing if you're a match for Tasha." And I said, "Yeah, for sure." And well, there's somebody else in front of you, because I guess they could only test one person at a time. I think that's what Tasha's insurance allowed for. So he said, it was kind of funny, like put it like, "Well, you're in the hole right now," because someone was in front of me. And so I finally got a call back, say, "Well, you're now up at bat." And so she's in Houston, I'm in San Diego. And they had to do some blood tests. And so I did some blood tests and urine samples here, the 24-hour urine sample that I had in a big paper bag in my office in the refrigerator. I just didn't tell one of my staff what that was. And then turned that in. And then I got a call back saying, "Hey, it looks like you could be a match for Tasha." And that kind of blew me away. And he said, "But to do the rest of this testing, we ask you to come back to Houston." So I flew back to Houston and was there for a few days. And as Tammy mentioned, the incredible physical that you get. And I was learning a lot about it. Came back home and found out that I was a match. And then, fast forward a little bit, that's when I called Tasha and all that stuff. I will say out here in San Diego, and again, I started doing a lot of research on it, and I never was scared, though I felt somewhat alone with the process out in San Diego because I didn't know anybody. I didn't know Tammy at that time. And I was introduced to a really great couple, John and Diane Brockington. And John recently passed away, unfortunately, but I consider Diane Brockington to be my donor mentor. She taught me all there is to know about it, and really made me feel even more comfortable with it. Then flew back to Houston in March of 2019 and checked into the hospital, saw Tasha that evening. That was fun. And then got ready. We did the surgery. Surgery was a piece of cake. And that was only my second surgery I'd ever had. The first one was when I donated bone marrow. And so the doctors there at Memorial Hermann in Houston were awesome. And it made me feel really comfortable. Did a great job. When I came to and Tasha was still having surgery, kind of monitoring, I felt like I was in the grandstands, just like, how's everything going with Tasha? And the pain wise, it wasn't until you mentioned, Brian, I think about the gas that they had in there. I forgot completely about it for a long time until you just mentioned that, but the pain was really nothing. And, I will say, I wish I had another kidney to give. The experience, on my side, it was the best experience of my life. And total honor. Tasha's, as you can kind of tell here, is amazing, and was proud to do it. I would do it again in a second. If there was any pain that I had, it was that they said I got to kind of lay low for 6 weeks. And I'm somewhat, become anxious. I like to do stuff. And so I did wait till that 6-week mark. And then I did go out to go surfing. And there was like, I don't know, part of the scar of a scar tissue or something that was kind of pointy. And when I got down on my surfboard, it was like, ouch, that one hurt. So I stopped, I got out of the water and I waited another 2 weeks to surf. But there's been no changes whatsoever. Like I said, I wish I could do it again, learned a ton about it. Became pretty passionate about the advocacy for living organ donation. In fact, we even went around and spoke with Tammy about it, but because it's important. And again, if I didn't know that it was even possible to do it, I'm sure there are a lot of other people out there that aren't aware that you can do it either.
Right. That's what we're hoping to educate people more and more. We hope that people watch this video even long after we've done it here. But thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm so happy
Can I
that you
say
both.
one more thing?
Yeah, please.
I didn't even talk about the surgery part, Mark. So before surgery, I told Mark he had to nickname my kidney. That was a thing on Facebook, and in these groups are like, make sure your donor nicknames it. He's like Floyd. I was like, please don't name it Floyd. So after his surgery, when he first saw me and I was awake, surgery, I was not nervous. I will tell you that. I was ready to rock and roll. I knew he was ready to rock and roll. So I'm like, dude, if he's this confident, like, I'm so ready for him. So again, had the best surgeon. Dr. Bynum was incredible. And I was in and out in 4 hours. And then I stayed 4 days was my hospital stay. And I didn't get up to walk until the second day because my incision, I had a lot more nerve pain than the average person has. So that took that was probably one of the worst downfalls at post-transplant. Was just the nerve pain you feel. And then of course, all the fun with all the medications. So
yeah, learning about all of those.
But somebody did ask a question, how long I was in the hospital. And I was only in there for 2 nights after the surgery. And then I stayed in a hotel. A friend of mine who does the same thing I do here in San Diego and Houston, he got me in a hotel and I stayed there for, I think it was like another week or 8 days before I was able to fly home. I almost did lose my wife over one thing. And it was after the surgery. I had a little flatulence issue that kind of grossed her out. But apparently the doctors were really happy about it. So it was all good.
Well, thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
But how about our other donors here? How long were you in the hospital? How long did you each stay?
I think I was 3 days. Yeah, 3 or 4 days.
4 days. Me 3 days.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Daryl and Brian?
2 nights.
Oh, yeah. Okay. 2 nights for you, Trisha.
Yep.
And Brian, how about you?
I think 2 nights, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I went back to work a week earlier than so it was like weeks I went to work.
Right on. Well, I want to thank everyone for their sharing their stories. We have a couple of questions. Tammy was diligently answering a couple there. One from, and I know that Charmaine, you have a couple. Let me read this one really quick. Katrina, other than not lifting, what are the restrictions for the kidney donor? Tammy, right? Would you please?
We don't want you to drive while you're on narcotics because we don't want you to get in trouble for driving under the influence. Usually everybody's different with their narcotics. We're really trying to stay away from narcotics now. And a lot of people we give gabapentin to instead of giving a strong pain medication. We want you under good pain control, but we don't want you under such control where you get constipated. Constipation is a really big thing for living donors because we do move around your bowels a little bit when we do surgery. And so when Mark said that the staff was happy that he had gas, we all are very happy. We're very open in saying, are you having any gas? Because that means things are starting to move and starting to work. You don't have to have a bowel movement before you leave the hospital, but we want you to start to get some grumbling going on there so that you can recover safely. You know, some of the things, we can't lift it greater than 10 pounds because we don't want you to get a hernia. A lot of my donors tell me the biggest thing is they just sometimes get really, really tired with donation. So the first week or two, probably almost everybody here can say, all of a sudden you feel great, and all of a sudden then you hit this wall and you need to take a nap. And that's just because, remember, our body is healing. Our body had surgery. The body needs to recover. And to do that, we sleep. We rest our body. Drink lots of
Very-
water. It's really important to stay away from the NSAIDs, the Aleve, Advil, ibuprofen. Those can harm kidneys. So when you have one kidney, you have to be a little bit more cautious with certain things than if you had two kidneys.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And you know, I wanted to share some information as we kind of wrap things up. You know, it's just as easy as you know, registering to be an organ and tissue donor, getting that little pink dot on your driver's license, you know, go to DMV or places like Life Sharing, or Donate Life. Life Sharing is the organization that supports Imperial Valley in San Diego, and Donate Life is a national organization. I think, Mark, you've worked with Donate Life. I can't remember, maybe it's Tammy too. But I wanted to make sure I had that information up on the screen. But as we're kind of wrapping things up, I wanted to see if anybody would like to, you know, what's something you hope viewers will take away from our discussion? Let's see. Let's start with Mark.
Oh, boy. You know, I beat this drum quite a bit, but you know, I just think just awareness is a huge thing. I heard a stat one time, Diane Brockington told this to me one time. She said that if just there are 100,000 people approximately on the waiting list right now for a kidney, and if just 1 in 10,000 people who were healthy enough to donate a kidney did it, 1 in 10,000 people, if they donated, that would wipe out the waiting list. Of course, I'm an optimist. I'm like, that's doable, right? But I think that's a really incredible stat. You know, that just 1 in 10,000 people did it. It would wipe out that list.
Well, we're going to keep educating people about it. So we want people to know, you know, it's just as easy to, you know, register as getting your driver's license. So, you know, let's keep educating, Mark. So you could be on another webinar anytime. We'd love to have you.
Thank you.
Cindy, I know that I haven't reached out to you during this discussion, but what would you like people to take away from today?
Gosh, what a webinar. It's just so beautiful to see these people here. I mean, such a gift for everybody who has been so thoughtful and sharing a kidney, sharing life to someone else, and even the recipient, you know, to go through that journey and to feel that pain of suffering and CKD and end-stage renal disease. It's not an easy journey by no means. It's extremely difficult, very sensitive. And then to have that donor be there, I mean, we have such an incredible panel here today of people that are so giving and loving. And, you know, if this whole world could just be, you know, part of this, and to see all of this and to see the gift of life and see so many people give. I mean, it's just been my honor, a pleasure today to be a part of it and just listen in and learn from it so I can help my patients on their side to understand really what this means and what this looks like. So thank you.
Thanks, Cindy. Who else would like to share their thoughts on today's discussion? Charmaine?
Just that being a transplant recipient from a deceased donor, but what I would like to add to everybody's story is to just tell your story. You know, you don't have to, because a lot of times when I share my story, people say, well, I don't want to just ask somebody, to give me their kidney, but you don't have to ask. Just share your story and you'd be amazed. Just like, Daryl and Brian and Mark and like everybody here, it's just like you just share your story and people will reach out. It's really amazing. Like it's just so emotional because we have each story is a little bit different with their donor, and it just shows to everybody, hopefully that watches this, that people really do generally want to help. And you might be surprised. Just share your story on social media, at work, community centers, churches or wherever. And, it gives people an opportunity to help when they don't know how.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for sharing your stories.
Yeah, so I have a friend that actually created like a poster for me with the QR code to the shortcut to Memorial Hermann. So
Yeah.
it got straight to my account. They knew who they were signing up for. And so again, a lot of it's kept, confidential. And so I sent, first an email to my most closest family and friends. And then when, again, in my timing, I was like, okay, I just want to hear something. And so then I asked him, I was like, you're good with this stuff. I was like, can you just create a poster for me that I can put on Facebook? And he's like, absolutely. And then he put it around our office and all of that. I had a few coworkers try, but again, the test that everyone has to go through, it's thorough. So,
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
but
yeah.
yeah.
And that's such an issue for so many people, is the big ask. How do I ask somebody about this? It's, rather than focusing on, I'm going to ask this person, just share your story, because even if that person isn't able to share or to be your donor, they may share your story. So you never know.
Right.
So don't be shy about that.
Mhm.
Right, Tammy? I know you wanted to speak to that.
It's just really important, you aren't making the decision for them. Let them find out from the healthcare community, whoever it is, if they can do it. And we're all here to protect donors. So sometimes donation's not the right decision for some people, and we'll help them make that decision too. But just sharing your story, however it may be. If I think it was your sister or your cousin shared it, and that's how Mark saw it. So there's such a small world that you don't know how many people that you can touch with just that one little small story was told about you, and then Mark pops up and says this is something he wants to do.
Right.
And a lot of times medical things are scary for people.
Mhm.
And that's why there's nurses like myself at the transplant center to help explain everything in terms that everybody can understand. Because sometimes some of the big words that are used are like, oh, they're going to do a laparoscopic donor nephrectomy. What that means is we're going to take a little camera and we're going to put it through your abdomen. We're going to find your kidney and we're going to remove it. But it sounds so technical. So, don't be afraid. Just reach out and say, hey, I got this going on. There is something called a microsite for anybody who's looking for a transplant. And it's very similar to what you said, Tasha, it's a URL that they just link, and that comes directly to the transplant center. So they don't even have to say to you,
Yeah.
hey, I want to donate a kidney. It just goes straight to the transplant center.
Yeah. I asked most people to not come to me just because of my high hopes. And it literally was heart shattering when it was like, I got to the last test and supposedly I get kidney stones. They won't let me donate. And I'm like, and the testing takes a while. It's not like it's done overnight. So,
Right.
yeah,
Things happen for reasons.
they do. Mark is the best match ever. I will tell you.
And those other people that tested found things about their health that
They
maybe
did.
can prevent them from having
Right.
issues.
Mhm.
So even though it was sad for all of them,
Yeah.
there was the good outcome.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Thank you guys so much. I know Larry has to take off, but I do have a couple of things I just wanted to share. Larry, thank you so much. Thank you, Trisha. It was such a pleasure. I
Sorry.
do have a couple of things, everyone, to share. No problem. Let me see here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
So I just wanted to thank everyone for watching who joined us and listened in today. I hope you enjoyed the discussion as much as I did. Join us again next month for another Kidney Conversations with Remend, when we focus on dialysis treatment options on May 18th, same time and place. If you or someone you know is dealing with kidney disease, would like to speak to someone who has been on their own kidney journey, please reach out to Remend. Here's several ways that you can reach out to us. I had a couple of people mention something here before I go. Oh, thank you, Deborah. Thanks for watching. But I have one more thing that I wanted to mention. I don't know if my music is coming out yet here. Can you guys hear that?
Not yet.
Lastly, I just want to take a moment. Mark had mentioned this wonderful couple. I wanted to pause and express my gratitude for a very special human being I had the privilege of knowing, John Brockington, Green Bay Packers legend. He sadly passed away on March 31st here in San Diego. He and his wife, Diane, created the John Brockington Foundation in 2002 after John received a kidney transplant from an avid Packers fan, his future wife, Diane. The organization assisted San Diego organ transplant patients for over 14 years. John Brockington was truly a blessing, greatly loved, and he will be deeply missed. So wanted to share that. So thank you, everyone. Thanks again for participating. And again, if you know anyone that needs to speak to somebody that's had this experience, or you just have questions about some of the things we talked about, please check us out on Facebook. We have a YouTube channel, and we also have Instagram, or just email us. Remend.org is a great place to learn more. So thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.